Good morning and happy Friday. Yeah, we made it. Plus, if you're keeping count, only 56 days until spring. And boy, do we have an exciting show for you today. We're going to start with a look at Halifax's traffic congestion. It's become one of the biggest quality of life issues impacting our city. A new report is out showing Halifax ranked third worst in Canada for rush hour traffic. And so we're going to dive into what's behind the issue and explore some potential solutions with a transportation expert from Dalhousie University. Then shifting gears, talking about aging in Canada. Some new research out showing that concerns around financial security, social well-being, and loneliness are among seniors. And that conversation coming up with the CEO of the National Association of Federal Retirees. Tim Powers is back from Summa Strategies and Abacus Data. Going to help us unpack the latest political headlines. Everything from Prime Minister Mark Carney's cabinet meeting in Quebec City, Canada being uninvited from the Board of Peace, Pierre Poilievre shifting political strategy, and Trudeau popping up in Davos with a little soft power diplomacy at the World Economic Forum. Then back to international affairs as Scott Taylor, editor of Esprit de Corps Magazine, takes us through the geopolitical storm surrounding Trump's push to acquire Greenland and what it means for Canada's role in Arctic security. Then it is Open Hour. We're going to get your thoughts on a few hot topics. Maybe something on your mind regarding illegal lobster fisheries. Maybe you saw the demolition of Salty's restaurant on the waterfront or saw the news of the closing of Vandal Donuts. Also, you'll have the chance to chime in on whether Halifax should be prioritizing green space preservation or development. Later on in the show, going to dig into the booming trend of non-alcoholic drinks in Canada. I'm going to check in with the owner of Soberish Mocktail Shoppe to talk about how the shift in social drinking is reshaping Nova Scotia's beverage culture. Then at 12:15, we're going to turn our focus to energy and water bills with Janet Tobin from EfficiencyOne. She's going to offer up some insights on how we can save energy, reduce our bills, and still cut emissions. Then Allister Aalders is going to join us to break down the weekend weather. He's going to cover off everything from incoming bitter cold, perhaps a winter storm to start off the work week, and the latest Northern Lights sightings. And then wrapping up the week with Cecil Wright, a roundup of the week's sports headlines, including Bo Bichette's big move to the Mets, the NFL playoffs this weekend, the Jamaican bobsledders heading to the 2026 Winter Olympics. So there you have it. Grab a coffee, settle in, stay with us. We're going to cover off a lot today. But first up, we're going to dig into one of the biggest quality of life issues affecting people in Halifax and really the entire HRM, traffic congestion. Recent numbers from the TomTom Traffic Index show that Halifax has ranked third worst in Canada for rush hour congestion. On average, commuters are spending tens of hours a year in peak hour traffic, more than any other Canadian city except Toronto and Vancouver. So joining us to break this all down is Ahsan Habib, who is a transportation expert from Dalhousie University, to just walk us through what this means for daily life, what the numbers tell us about driving patterns, and what solutions might actually work. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Lisa. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, listen, a real pleasure, because this is something that as a city councillor, I heard about pretty much on a daily basis. And, you know, based on the latest data, how has traffic congestion in Halifax changed in the last few years? And what are the factors driving that?
I think we are seeing some trends in increasing traffic congestion, as you saw from the recent survey recent research from TomTom. The major factor, of course, like we are growing. Like Halifax growth from 2001 to 2021 is almost 22% of population, and both internal migration, external migration, and at the same time we have a vision to grow. So that's obviously one of the key drivers. We have more cars on the road, more trips are being made. But at the same time, I think we are also going to the normal life after COVID. We had almost 16% of exclusively working from home, or 35% hybrid, and now return to office policies also bringing people to the cars. and even in different period of time. So things are picking up on that direction as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned COVID. In my mind, I separate the traffic in Halifax and describe it pre-COVID and post-COVID because, as you point out, post-COVID, with so many companies adopting work from home or flexible schedules, there just doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to traffic now. I mean, once upon a time, you could pretty much bank on Mondays, we're going to be busy. Fridays we're going to be busy in the early afternoon as people sneak out early. But now there's really no predicting when it's going to be busy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And again, we are not even have seen the fuller scope of people returning to office yet, because there are still that kind of work arrangement in place. We just ran a study recently with a PhD student, and we saw if the complete reversal of work arrangement, we might see 43% of the increase of auto trips in Halifax Road. So we haven't seen even the fuller extent of the congestion we might be anticipating to go back to COVID period with the increase in population.
Wow. So the numbers from TomTom, the traffic index, show Halifax ranking pretty high among Canadian cities. Only Toronto and Vancouver outrun us. What does that look like in practical terms for commuters here each day?
Yeah, so we have to a little bit look at the methodology here. The congestion was more defined on the travel time increase. So I will not be too alarmed yet on that part. But again, of course, we have increased substantially our traffic congestion here. What it tells us, we need to take steps. We need to plan our infrastructure. We have not responded enough with our population growth as well as anticipated population growth to grow our transportation system, particularly public transit, which can be mass scale as well as a reliable rapid transit system.
And, certainly Halifax Regional Municipality has been working very hard to, increase the transportation infrastructure in Halifax with bus rapid transit, that sort of thing. But, I mean, that infrastructure is slow to get here. So, when you look at the current infrastructure in Halifax, roads, bridges, transit, what role do they play in alleviating or worsening congestion? Are there specific pinch points that are worth highlighting here?
Right. I would say we need at this point all hands on the deck, because we have this wake-up call. There are congestion at present, and it might increase further. In my personal opinion, or even from our work, both HRM and Link Nova Scotia, which has a very nice mandate of regional in scope, needs to invest on bus rapid transit or any rapid transit that can alleviate number of cars from our very historical downtown. We need to keep our downtown vibrant. So although we have a limited entry and exit, we can only achieve a better flow by introducing dedicated higher order transit system. Now we have certain plans in place, green, purple, red, yellow BRT line, but we need to see them quickly. And then we also need to connect with the regional transit. We are talking even in Link Nova Scotia's recent transfer plan, they have connectors with Windsor, Airport, Chester, Lunenburg, but that should come next after we have a network of BRT system. And BRT means rail-like service, but dedicated, taking them out of the mixed traffic as much as possible. Otherwise, it will not work.
Yeah, and you mentioned the work that Link Nova Scotia is doing, and I think, I think that provincial boost was necessary to make this happen, because this isn't strictly a Halifax problem. This is a problem, I would say, provincially, right?
Yes, 100%. If we have a vibrant downtown, if we have a vibrant HRM, we have a better Nova Scotia as well. And Link's scope is almost 63% of the population of the whole province. So I can see there should be an intense partnership with both HRM as well as a provincial government to invest in public transit. At this point, most of our mandate, at least in the past, was highway development, retrofits, say 102 enhancement, some kind of a road infrastructure-based delivery system. We need to shift our gear, public transit-based transport delivery system, since we want to grow farther, since we want to be a happening city, which is a very welcoming, promising news, but that promise should come through public transit lens.
Mm. And do you think there should be more attention paid to suburban and rural areas as far as transit is concerned? I mean, I've often been frustrated, realizing that the folks sitting in traffic, on a daily basis, they're not living in Clayton Park or Fairview. They're coming from the rural and suburban areas. They're coming from the Sackvilles, the Beaver Banks, the Tantallons. And do we need to put more focus on those suburban and rural areas?
Yeah, absolutely. But for public transit to work, it needs to happen with a growth node-based development, meaning we need to connect the concentrated growth that we see in the rural commuter shed or suburban area, and we must have a better network within the city first to connect. Let's think about the Toronto example. They have a subways and bus system for the TTC, but they have also GO Transit as a regional connector. So we need to take the good part of Toronto, how they evolved their transportation system, meaning we need a reliable transit system within the city and some dedicated corridor connecting from outer areas so that we can also reduce the sprawl growth as we are dealing with housing crisis.
Mm. And so, as we've discussed here, better rapid transit, different travel patterns to ease congestion. But what has the research shown about the potential impact of those stronger transit options or mode shift away from cars?
We ran recently a couple of scenarios with the more public transit, ferries, as well as commuter rail, like multidimensional transit. We can probably achieve our 20% target from transit modal split. Right now, it's 6% for all trips. 77% we are almost driving our auto. So there are substantial shift can happen, and that will be the only way to keep our traffic congestion to an acceptable level, particularly during the rush hour.
So what kinds of solutions or policy changes do you think we should be watching for that will actually make a difference?
I think with the links like a regional plan and HRM's commitment to the BRT, the more prioritized investment and implementation of dedicated public transit system should be within years, not like decades.
Mm. And so that's the long term. But, what are steps that everyday commuters can take now and, to improve mobility in Halifax?
I think our transit ridership has increased a little bit, so we need to continue that. But at the same time, I think there are some retrofits going on, say Highway 102 enhancement, some ITS deployment is happening, some transit priority system, some flow detection. But again, those will give you a very minimal improvement, in my opinion. It needs to be I will not say BRT is the long term. It's easy to implement. We have seen in Bogota, we have seen in Ottawa in the past. It's possible. It's a flexible technology. It's a smaller deployment. Even a pilot project can just go within 6 to 10 months.
Mm-hmm. That'll go a long way. I mean, the numbers are pretty bleak. 83 hours a year commuters spend on average in peak hour traffic. That's crazy. When you look at other municipalities that we're being compared to, like Toronto and Vancouver. Yeah.
It's a very, very. I would say it's a concerning, and my fear is more like if this kind of congestion level is sustained. If our businesses or other things start moving away from the downtown, in that case, providing transit in the future will be much more challenging, costly, expensive. So if we want, it should be more vision-based, more transit-focused development, both from the land use side as well as from the transportation side. And it's possible we have the right governance system at this point in place, both in Link as well as very dedicated HRM team. Question is, we need to pick or prioritize the one who will bring the most impact immediately, particularly bus rapid transit or ferry service that can move a larger amount of people to reduce the number of cars on the trips. We need to take this demand management approach than road infrastructure supply approach of transportation planning.
All right. Ahsan Habib, thank you so very much for joining us this morning. Appreciate your perspective and your analysis on this.
No problem. Thank you very much, Lee.
All right. You have a great weekend. It is 10:15. We're going to take a quick break. And I'm Lisa Blackburn from Forward Strategies. You're with the Todd Veinotte Show on 95.7 News Radio. Back in a moment. And welcome back to the Friday show. So glad to have you joining us this morning. Next, we're turning our attention to a topic that affects millions of Canadians and really a growing share of our population. What it really feels like to grow older in Canada today. There's new data out from the National Institute on Aging that shows that while many seniors are healthy and active, there are clear concerns about social well-being, financial security, independence, and just overall optimism about aging. Anthony Pizzino is the CEO of the National Association of Federal Retirees, and he's here to discuss the latest survey results and what they reveal about Canadians age 50 plus and how they see their lives. We're also going to talk about the rising issue of loneliness and how community initiatives that bring older adults together are all part of the efforts to support mental health and social connection later in life. Good morning, Anthony. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good morning, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
So what stood out most to you in this National Institute on Aging survey about how older Canadians view their quality of life and future in general?
What stood out is the reality that aging Canadians are facing in Canada, and you kind of touched on it a little bit in your intro. The stats, I think, are something to pay attention to in that by the 2030s, we will have 1/4 of the Canadian population that will be 65 years old or older. So these type of conversations need to happen more often to ensure that the country is prepared for the reality of what's coming for that particular demographic of the Canadian population.
I call it the gray hair tsunami that is coming. That's a full-on cultural shift when you've got a quarter of your population.
It's huge, and this is a very very good data from this particular study. But it does follow other patterns of similar findings. Although this particular study is showing that things are getting worse for some folks in terms of the positive feelings that individuals have towards aging, but they all point essentially to the same root causes of what I think are making people feel this way.
So the survey covers 10 indicators of aging well, including things like social well-being, financial security. Where are older Canadians doing well, and where are they struggling the most?
Some of it depends, obviously, on the income security that individuals have, and I think I'll start with that. What I think we're seeing in a large number of the aging population is affordability constraints, and those are having material impact on their happiness, and that is leading to increased social isolation. With the affordability problems that are happening right now in terms of access to health care, access to affordability for transportation, groceries, housing, people are making choices about where they're spending their money. They're limited resources. And sadly, it looks like participating in social activities, recreational activities, is having an impact.
Well, when you've only got so much money to stretch, usually it's the social activities that take the first hit in the budget.
That's exactly right. And it's one of the reasons why our particular association, our advocacy mandate is to ensure that every member, every Canadian, in fact, has this financial security, the health and well-being to be able to age in dignity and in health.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I mean, the financial security ties in with loneliness and social isolation, and I mean, that is a big theme that came up in the research. How serious an issue is this in Canada right now, and what does the data tell us about its prevalence? I mean, are there some areas of Canada that are feeling it more than others?
I think it's fairly well consistent across the country in terms of overall numbers. The study was a national study, and so if we're talking about that particular study, the decline in positive feelings is a national perspective. So there is that consistency across the country, and I'll go back to what I said earlier. What needs to happen is a more consistent conversation to ensure that our policymakers, our politicians, actually invest the appropriate resources to ensure that things don't continue to get worse. The data is there and has been there for years. What we actually need is a strategy to address this. And right now, we don't have that in Canada. We don't have a national senior strategy or an aging strategy that has, goals and that identifies the kind of funding that is required to ensure that aging Canadians can do that, as I said earlier, in health, with income retirement security, and with dignity.
So policymakers out there should be really concentrating on an aging strategy at this point.
We need to. The stats are there. I mentioned it earlier in terms of older Canadians, a quarter of the population by the 2030s. By 2040, the number of those individuals in Canada who are 85 and plus will be tripling in the next four decades. So this is a very serious issue that hasn't received the kind of attention that it needs.
So older adults, certainly not a monolith. How do factors like gender, immigrant status, geography even influence someone's experience of aging and their risk of loneliness?
I think the main factor is actually age. Obviously, there will be particularly more challenging effects on equity-seeking groups, as you've mentioned. But the real common denominator is age, and how society views older persons, aging Canadians. One of the pieces that I think is really important in the study is also attitudes towards ageism, and that is something that needs a further discussion across generational lines. By the way, it isn't just about older Canadians, but having a conversation about ageism is really, really important. How society views aging Canadians, how the media portray aging Canadians. That's really, really important to make sure that there isn't that kind of isolation, that there isn't that kind of exclusion from society.
Yeah, and this study looked at adults over the age of 50, or what was the buy-in age for this study? It was
adults age 50 plus. That were part of the survey, yes.
And so, certainly community leaders can play a role in this as well. What kind of community programs have you seen that makes a real difference in reducing isolation for older adults?
Well, that's a big question. It really depends on the community, but I think on overall, what communities need to advocate for is ensuring that there is accessibility for aging Canadians for the kind of programs that they need. Those start with healthcare and investment in the kind of programs that are required, access to primary care doctors, lessening burden on urgent care centers, just improving the overall healthcare ecosystem, which starts at the community, at the provincial level, the community level. That's really, really important. Also, investments in long-term care. We need ways to modernize that infrastructure from some of the outdated institutionalized long care models that exist now to better models than that. Finally, desire by most aging Canadians to actually age in place. So home care and community care should be part of this conversation.
And I think, in Nova Scotia, we certainly have, we've tried to stress that aging in place and aging at home. But I'm not sure we have done it in the right way to make sure that the supports that are actually needed are in place for seniors who want to stay in their homes.
Overall, that's exactly right. It's important to have the conversation. First of all, the engagement of the individuals that want to age at home, and then the kind of choices that they need to make and the support that's required for them. And I think it's really important if we're talking about affordability. It isn't just aging in homes that individuals own. We need to figure out what happens to folks that rent, and they want to stay and age in place as well. That's the kind of supports that we need to make sure that aging Canadians remain as healthy as possible in the location of their choosing.
All right. We'll have to leave it there for now. Anthony Pizzino, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Anthony is CEO of the National Association of Federal Retirees, and appreciate you helping us break down this latest survey. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Lisa.
Have a great weekend.
Yes,
it is 10:29. We're going to take a break for the news. Blake Priddle is standing by. I'm Lisa Blackburn from Forward Strategies, and you're with the Todd Veinotte Show on 95.7 News Radio. Back in a moment. And welcome back to the program. Dan Alstrand will be back on Monday to guide you through next week. First up, we've got a political roundtable, but wow, we've got some big headlines to look at. They've been shaping Ottawa all week. Prime Minister Mark Carney has been hosting the cabinet in Quebec City. They're planning a retreat. It is a planning retreat focused on the economy and security ahead of the return of Parliament. Canada has been uninvited from the Board of Peace. And also Mark Carney pushing back strongly on remarks from U.S. President Donald Trump at Davos about Canada's role and independence. The opposition side, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, won't be running again in the Alberta riding that rescued him after his 2025 election loss at home. That's certainly raising some questions about the strategy and the party's path forward. Internationally, Justin Trudeau's appearance at the World Economic Forum alongside pop star Katy Perry, reigniting discussion about soft power, influence, and the evolving role of public figures in diplomacy. To help us understand it all, we have Tim Powers from Summa Strategies and Abacus Data. Thank you so much for returning to help us with all of this morning.
Oh, you're welcome, Lisa. You know, we want some fireworks. Did you like that? I got a Katy Perry reference in there. Not bad,
very nice, very nice. So, Carney has convened the cabinet this week. They are in Quebec City to set priorities on the economy, security, and what's ahead for Parliament's return. And I'm sure they will do that immediately after a round of high fives for Mark Carney's speech in Davos this week. What does this all tell us about where the government's focus is right now and what is going to shape the next sitting of Parliament?
Well, it is the return of Parliament. I mean, they have some legislation and things they want to get through. I suspect domestically, everybody will be watching in the next couple of weeks to see if there's another floor crosser or two. We haven't talked much about that, but usually when it's quiet, that does mean things are happening, because if somebody else crosses the floor in the current environment, that would give Carney a majority and a latitude to do more things. There's a lot of speculation, though, too, here, Lisa, as I said to you last week, and it only kicked up this week after Carney's Davos speech, that the Liberals are looking to engineer an election sooner rather than later.
Really?
I don't know if I quite buy that, but that's all the domestic scuttlebutt. On the international, I mean, we do Kuzma, I guess, the trade agreement, and where we go with that after the back and, Trump's whining about Canada and seemingly forgetting all the blood we spilled in Afghanistan and all the help we provided on 9/11 about how, we're not there for the U.S. and his, how, by the grace of God, how lucky we are to exist. But we do have that trade agreement. We have to figure out where we're going to go with that, and Carney continues to push for other trade deals. So it's a lot. I mean, it's still driven by global politics. And then there's Greenland. Is there a deal? Is there not a deal? What does that mean to NATO? So none of that has really gone away.
No, for sure. And something that was just announced late last night via social media, Canada has been uninvited from the Board of Peace that is being convened. I have a feeling that there are a lot of folks in Ottawa, the Prime Minister's office, that just went, whew. All right. We don't have to make
100% right on that, Lisa.
We don't have to make this decision.
Yeah, exactly. I think, again, that probably helps Carney. Because remember, a bit of the criticism he was getting was he'd moved from elbows up rhetoric to trying to, cozy up to the U.S. president, and now we're back to the elbows being up. And I think part of the reason his speech in Davos struck a chord with so many in Canada and around the world was because it played to that notion of enough is enough. We're sick of this guy and all of the nonsense we have to put up with. So now we'll actually see what, if anything, that translates into in terms of actions.
Yeah. And I mean, the Prime Minister's response to Trump's comments at Davos certainly sparking the headlines. But how unusual is this kind of public back and forth with the U.S.? And, what are the political risks or maybe their rewards for Carney?
Well, I mean, the risks are the Kuzma just gets shredded. That's a big economic risk. The rewards are domestically, people love it, at least in the short term. But what does it do to our economic relationships in the long term? I think, look, there's a realization that, yes, I know it seems like a long time, still 3 more years that Donald Trump will be gone and America will still be there, and all of the hundreds of years of economic cooperation aren't going to disappear in 3 years. So there's the short-term risk of Trump versus the long-term damage that could do and where we need to go.
Yeah. So turning now to Pierre Poilievre, it was announced this week that he is not going to be running in the riding that came to the rescue for him in the last election. He's not going to run out in Alberta. He's going to run in a new riding next time, but we're not sure which one. So, what does that say about Conservative strategy and his leadership standing heading into the next federal election?
Well, I think that's more, again, about some internal Conservative Party management. They want to get that Damien Kirk, the MP who gave up the seat, back in the House. Eventually, they want to signal that they're doing that. I think Poilievre's keeping his options open there. I mean, he may find himself not needing a riding if things don't go well for him over the next year. So it may add to that speculation. That is probably, I would argue, less significant than, some of the positioning he tried last night, saying, oh, you know what, Mark Carney gave a good speech. But, I mean, that's a bit of a change instead of an outright dissembling of everything Carney did.
Yeah.
I mean, next week is important for the Conservatives. I mean, Pierre Poilievre, 2 weeks when he has his leadership vote. The return of Parliament next week's important because if there is going to be a floor crossing, you have to think it's being calculated with maximum political damage.
Well, so I mean, that was going to be my next question. So if there are more people preparing to cross the floor, and certainly I've heard rumors that is the case, you expect that floor crossing will take place before the leadership review? I
don't know. I go back and forth in my head on that.
Yeah?
Do you let him? I mean, the Liberals, some argue the Liberals want Poilievre to stay because they see him as their biggest asset right now, which was not the case before. So
No.
Do you let him get his review vote, and then a day later when he returns to Ottawa, before there's any halo effect from that, or even as his review vote is being announced on a Friday night, you say, oh, by the way, there's 2 floor crossers. That'll steal the story right off the bat. So if I'm the Liberals, I probably wait till the vote's cast and then have it happen as the result's about to come out and just steal the whole story.
Yeah. So moving on to soft power, cultural influence, diplomacy, and global engagement. Certainly getting some attention this week because of Justin Trudeau's speech at Davos and the optics of him appearing in Davos with Katy Perry. How should we understand soft power in Canada's foreign policy context? What role does it play? And does this, celebrity involvement help or hurt?
Well, I think one of the best things that happened to Mark Carney last week was Justin Trudeau showed up with Katy Perry, and it
Really?
reinforced.
Yeah.
I think it reinforced. Well, there was a comparison right here on the stage is Carney winning plaudits around the world, and next to him is, underneath him is Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry. With David Beckham and other global stars flitting around Davos. I think it showed a construct that Carney probably welcomed. I don't want to be too unkind to the former prime minister, because certainly he was the star at Davos once too, not to be forgotten in 2016. But I don't think right now Prime Minister Trudeau has a lot of global sway, and I don't think a lot of people are paying attention. Whether they should be or not is a different thing, but I don't think they're paying attention to any argument he's making about global power and how it ought to be used.
All right. Listen, can you give us one thing or two things that we should look for political-wise in the coming week? Anything that's on your radar?
Next week with the return to Parliament, how do the Liberals want to start that? What are they going to do? Carney's got to show some action, and there's a federal provincial meeting, I believe, next week. Will Mark Carney and Doug Ford hug it out? Will we see that, Lisa?
Hug it out. I love it. All right, we'll have to leave it there. Tim Powers from Summa Strategies and Abacus Data, thank you so much for your time this morning. Have a great weekend.
You too, Lisa. Bye.
All right, take care. It is 10:45. We're going to take a quick break. I'm Lisa Blackburn from Forward Strategies, and you're with the Todd Veinotte Show on 95.7 News Radio. Back in a moment. And 10:48 is the time. A few flurries out there right now, and we are at 0 overlooking Robie Street. Joining us now is Scott Taylor, editor and publisher of Esprit de Corps Magazine. And Scott has written about a flashpoint in global security that is really pushing the limits of international law and alliances. And it's the renewed drive by U.S. President Donald Trump to acquire Greenland. Trump is sort of doing his best Howie Mandel this week. Deal or no deal, we're not sure. He's framed this push as essential to U.S. national security, but as we saw at Davos this week, it's really triggered some fierce pushback from the world. Scott's recent analysis digs into the risks this campaign poses and what we could be doing or what might be done to foil such an annexation, including rethinking alliances and protections for the High North. Good morning, Scott. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning. It's always a pleasure.
So listen, your article argues that NATO could be playing a central role in preventing U.S. annexation of Greenland. And, how do you see the alliance's current strengths in the face of this challenge?
Well, the fact is, Greenland is a part of Denmark, which is part of NATO. So, it's already collectively protected by all 32 members. So this idea that Donald Trump is saying he needs to occupy in order to defend it from the Russians and the Chinese. The Russians and the Chinese. It's ridiculous. It's obviously it's already protected. Whatever Denmark would have to do. And America has already had since 1951 an agreement to place anything it feels necessary in terms of its own defense and airspace defense on Greenland. They would, at one point, not that long ago, they had up to 10,000 American troops were stationed there, almost as much as the population, and that was all by agreement since 1951. So this idea that he needs to put more in, they've downsized that. The base in Pidifuk is now called Pidifuk, and used to be called Thule. And the Canadian Air Force uses that base a couple times a year. They have to resupply the base up in Alert. So it is a NATO asset. It's being used by various NATO countries. We saw what happened when he was going to go to Davos and make this claim and make a deal. And then a number of countries like the UK and Sweden and Norway sent troops to Greenland to be physically on the ground there and sort of to show what they thought was that they can and will collectively defend Greenland. Trump saw that as some sort of affront to him, meaning that he couldn't just come and take Greenland. But there's no reason for him to take it. He can do whatever he wants with it up there now, other than some sort of grandiose scheme to make America larger during his tenure for his own ego, which makes no sense at all.
Yeah. So, has this crisis simply gone away now with the, quote, concepts of a deal that Trump has announced?
No, I would like to think that it does, but these are crazy times, and this is like the things that we're hearing. We heard the 51st state coming out of Donald Trump when he was first president-elect last year, and it was unnerving. And of course, we had our whole elbows up in response to his tariffs, and he said he was going to take over Canada through economic means, and he doesn't take military force. I mean, we're on the same list as Greenland. And for the same reasons. I mean, he can say that he needs Canada to defend his own airspace because he's already doing the Golden Dome, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So it's what started as maybe as a joke or something. It's not that funny. And unfortunately, we've seen the norms that we've grown up. I mean, I'm much older, but it's things we've become used to since the Second World War are no longer the norm. I mean, his attack into Venezuela to remove President Maduro and then leave the regime standing, it's like it doesn't make any sense. And everyone's trying to sane-splain this president. So to say that it's off the table just because he came back from one meeting, it all depends on which side he gets up on tomorrow.
Sane-splain. I love that.
Good luck with that, yeah.
Yeah. There's been a lot of grassroots opposition in Greenland itself, political pushback, certainly protests, and everyone there rejecting the idea that their island is for sale. And, how meaningful is that resistance in shaping international response?
Well, I personally, I've now fallen in love with the people of Greenland, but just seeing the little bits that I have, it's like, wow, I want to go there. And getting people explaining that they don't believe in the concept of owning land. They get permission to build a structure on the land, but the land belongs to the people. I heard that explained today, and it's like, well, wow, is that ever great?
Wow.
And then here you've got somebody who wants to just put his name on buildings and put his name on maps and change the name on the map to the Gulf of America. Like, where is this all going? I mean, those of us of a certain age, we've always grown up, it's always been the Gulf of Mexico, and it still is the Gulf of Mexico. So these things that just make no sense, but then to couch it by saying that America needs Greenland for its national security, once you've convinced enough people that that's the case, they're going to be scared if they don't get it because for some reason, whatever threat that the president knows, non-existent, but it's going to register that if the president wouldn't say this unless he needs to protect us from it. So that's where it becomes really dangerous, is this rhetoric then becomes part of the fabric that everyone then relies upon to make their policy decisions, but there's nothing there. I've yet to hear a Russian or a Chinese official say they want Greenland.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, that argument has been, null and void from the very beginning.
Well, Putin's had his hands full for 4 years trying to take a tiny corner of Ukraine. And to think he's going to suddenly go all the way across the Arctic and take Greenland, which is like, other than the brave souls that live on the West Coast, it's almost uninhabitable. So, and again, people are talking about resources that are in there. The Greenlanders have said, look, we're open for business. If your business wants to come and extract rare minerals, come and take it. Just give us a cut of the proceeds, that's all.
Yeah. And so, what about offering permanent NATO membership to Greenland, like Greenland's autonomous government? Is that one way that we could sort of blunt?
That was sparked by hearing an American official say that, well, it's at the moment we can deal with Denmark, but if they pull out, then Greenland wouldn't be part of NATO, and we would have to go in and step in, blah, blah. It's like, well, then offer the potentially autonomous region becoming independent, offer them permanent stake in NATO, and they don't have to have an armed force. Iceland is a member of NATO, full member. They don't have a military. They have agreements that Americans can station bases there, and the same thing would apply for Greenland. So this notion that you need to own it to be a member of NATO, it doesn't have to be. We've already got living examples of the fact that you don't have to have it. Luxembourg's got all of a single battalion, I think, but they're still a full member of NATO.
And there would be some certain legal and political implications of offering NATO membership to Greenland, yes?
Oh, it would become part of the collectives for defense, and that's where it was more or less the suggestion being that if they did this to them and said, look, we'll all agree that even if it becomes autonomous or independent, we will recognize it and we will collectively protect the territory. You don't need to own it. It does not need to be part of America. And if he continued to push, then you'd see that this really had nothing to do with collective defense or for defense of the territory from the Russians or the Chinese.
And so, of course, this all draws attention to our own Arctic. And what should Canada's role be in, responding militarily, diplomatically, through support for Greenland and Denmark? What form should it be taking?
Well, we do have a military. We do have an Air Force, a Navy, and an Army. Unfortunately, our leaders have looked at this and they've wargamed it. It was in the Globe and Mail last week that they've been wargaming it out. And the only solution that we would have, or the only chance we would have, is to disperse our regular forces and wage an insurgency against the would-be occupiers if they came in. And that's interesting to note, but it's at least someone up there is thinking, because it's we do not have the military might to resist America if they decided to come in by force.
Yeah. So the column that we're referring to here was published a week ago, and a lot has happened since then on the Greenland file. Has your thinking changed at all? Is there anything that you would change about that column now that we're a week from it?
I think they may have in fact done what was suggested, and then that made that offer when Mark Rutt met with him privately. Then everything seemed to go off the table. Maybe he did stand up to him and threaten to call his bluff and say, "Look, it's we'll just go out and tell the world the truth that we already have access to it, and 32 nations are prepared to defend it. You don't need to own it for it to be defensible." And again, even if America owned it, all 32 nations would be required to come to its defense if it was attacked. So there's no logical reasoning here for him to have it, other than it has to do with mineral rights and has to do with offshore drilling rights and outside the territory, etc. But again, the Greenlanders have said themselves, we are open for business. If you want to come in and invest in the infrastructure necessary to extract that material, please do so.
Come on in.
Yeah, we're open for business. And they're going to get my tourism business soon.
Well, that's the other thing, too. I have a feeling Greenland is going to see a major tourist bump after all of this coverage.
I think Canadians should start, what they used to head south, should start heading across to Greenland.
Scott Taylor, editor, publisher of Esprit de Corps Magazine, thank you so very much for your time today.
Have a great weekend. Take care.
All right, you too. It is 10:57, and we're going to take a quick break. Blake Priddle is standing by with the news. Coming up after, it is the Friday free-for-all. Looks like the phone lines are already hopping. 902-405-6000 is the number to call, or 1-877-801-8255. Lots of big items that we can be talking about today, and I look forward to having those conversations. I'm Lisa Blackburn from Forward Strategies, and you're with the Todd Veinotte Show on 95.7 News Radio. Back in a moment. Welcome back. Hopefully you've had a chance to refill that coffee mug and join us. It is the Friday Free-for-All, the open hour, and we want your voice on the big issues making waves today. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Those are the numbers to call. We're going to get to the phone lines in just a moment, but perhaps let's plant some seeds of suggestion here. Some things that are on your mind, perhaps. The Board of Peace. Yeah, Donald Trump has rescinded the invitation to Prime Minister Mark Carney to join the new Board of Peace. Of course, this makes the latest upheaval in the relationship between Canada and the U.S. In a post on social media last night, Trump didn't give details about why he was withdrawing the invitation, but he did call it the most prestigious board of leaders ever assembled at any time. The post came after Mark Carney gave the widely applauded speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos. He warned during that speech that the old world order was dead and urged middle powers to band together. Trump spoke the next day and made some, I don't know, you want to call them snide remarks about Mark Carney's speech. And obviously he did not appreciate it. What about you? Do you appreciate it? Give us a call, 902-405-6000. Recent reporting shows that authorities are cracking down on illegal lobster fishing here at home. Fines, tickets, linking, the authorities rather have linked this to organized crime and major export violations. So what does this mean for local fishers and the coastal communities? You think the fines and enforcement are too harsh? Not harsh enough? Halifax waterfront eatery Salty's has been demolished. Beloved for many, many years. It was torn down this week. And kind of sad to see a local favorite like Salty's go. What other Halifax restaurants from years gone by do you still miss? I can still taste the potato skins from Alfredo Weinstein and Ho. Miss that restaurant big time. Another sad closure in the restaurant world. Vandal Donuts is set to close this weekend. Another local favorite, Vandal Donuts, shutting its doors on Sunday. Fans will be flocking this weekend for one last taste. But do you think the city is losing its unique small businesses too quickly in favor of bigger chains? Perhaps that is something that you'd like to discuss. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. We're going to go to the phone lines where Tim is waiting. Hey, Tim, thank you for joining us.
Morning, Lisa. How are you? Great job the last couple of weeks.
Thank you. I've had a blast, and Dan will be back in the seat on Monday for the regular shenanigans.
Well, hopefully Dan will enjoy being back, and hopefully you'll make a reoccurrence periodically. In any event,
thank you.
Just talking about the convicted felon in the U.S. and his derogatory comments towards the men and women in the Canadian military. He should be absolutely embarrassed. He's a child at best. He can't, anything he says, I'm sure you can't believe. But in any event, when you see those coffins being carried into the airplanes, you just can't think about what the families are thinking about when he's making these what could be stupid and derogatory comments.
Yeah, I mean it has to be noted. It has to be noted that while Trump is going around slamming NATO and threatening to invade NATO allies, the only time that Article 5 was invoked was in response to 9/11, and that's when everybody else came to the aid of the United States of America. And
I think he has a short-term memory at best. I don't think he cares, and I think if he cares about anything, it's about what his future looks like once he leaves the White House. And needless to say, he's doing his absolute best to have a reserve fund, and all these billions of dollars that people are pouring into just to get a photo op or sit beside him right now is absolutely ridiculous. But unfortunate. But my thoughts are certainly with the families of those individuals that have lost their lives, and you have yourself a good weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Tim, and make a great point that Canadians, there are a lot of Canadians that came home in coffins from Afghanistan doing their duty to NATO. And, it's absolutely incomprehensible that America forgets that. Back to the phone lines, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Ron is joining us. Hey, Ron, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Lisa. I thought I'd get in before you take a break.
Excellent. What's on your mind?
The traffic thing, you were talking about it yesterday, and then you had somebody on this morning there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into it too much because it's just, I don't Halifax is a very complicated. I just don't see anything that they can do. I mean, it's so small and just so many cars and no place to go. But the guy that was on there, I don't know if he mentioned anything about the high-speed ferries or the trains from like light rail transfer coming from Bedford or anything. I know that's been talked about, but I haven't heard anything from that for a long time.
Yeah, and I think that both of those options are being considered by Link Nova Scotia, which was the provincial sort of arm's length body that was looking at transportation issues province-wide, recognizing that this is not just going to be a Halifax problem, that, when 60% of the traffic for the entire province is in HRM, then it does become a provincial problem. It's going to take all orders of government to help with this situation.
Yeah, I had to go to Dartmouth a few times. I live in Halifax, and I go down on the Joe Howe Drive there and trying to get up onto the ramp, and I couldn't believe the traffic. It's just ridiculous. Some of them are using that ramp as like 2 lanes, right, trying to get up there and squeezing people around, and then you have to get out, and then you have to go across like 5 lanes of traffic if you want to go to Dartmouth, and it's just, I don't know how he would ever fix that mess. That's just ridiculous.
And, certainly I know that rail was explored by Halifax Council on, one occasion. A major report was done. And, it came back that CN Rail, who is the owner of the tracks, they were certainly willing to explore transit and commuter rail. But the problem is that they made it clear from the get-go that their service, their cargo service takes precedent, and you really can't have a commuter rail system where you can't rely on when it leaves. You can't have a commuter rail system that has a train that leaves at 9:05 or maybe 9:10 or maybe 8:55. It all depends on the cargo that's there on the track first. So, it's a tough and it's a complex issue, and I do not envy the folks at Link who are tackling this.
There's something else. Somebody mentioned, I think it was a cabbie, he was talking about something that I don't understand. What is the no right turn on a red? Like, where did that come from?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure if that is HRM traffic or whether that's part of the Motor Vehicle Act.
I don't see the purpose. You can't turn, and then all the traffic's backed up. Like, I'm wondering, like, why? Why can't you turn? Like.
Good question.
Anyway.
Yeah, no turn on red. What is the driving force behind that? Is it a safety thing for pedestrians? I don't know. That is a good question. But appreciate that. Thank you so much, Ron, for calling in.
Okay, I had a couple of movies there for you. You were talking about movies the other day.
Yes.
You said you hadn't seen any. I got a couple here that I thought were worth seeing.
Sure.
The one there about. It's kind of like loosely based on Neil Diamond.
Oh, Song Sung Blue with Hugh Jackman. Well, interesting to note that Kate Hudson got nominated for an Oscar for her role in that, but Hugh Jackman didn't. Yeah, no, and he was just as good. I mean, this is a good movie. And the other one is One Battle After Another. That thing was just nonstop. It was great. Yeah.
All throughout it. And I thought Sean Penn did an amazing job in that, but he's not really even talked about.
No, and
it's always DiCaprio like that.
Okay, so that's the one, and it's a comedy, right?
I wouldn't say so. It's pretty. It doesn't slow down. Put it that way. It's just nonstop, and it's just very interesting and kind of. I don't know. It always seems to me when they make these movies, they make them like so long ago. I'm wondering, like, how do they see the future? How do they do this sort of thing? Because it really relates to what's going on today as well.
Yes. And, sometimes it's just luck.
Yeah.
All right.
So you were on just one more thing. You were just talking about you had somebody on to talk about loneliness and stuff like that.
Yes.
When you get older, yeah. Well, I'm older, and I've been single my whole life, and I've never been married. I had a few relationships, but so I'm in that position. I'm 68, and the other thing there about me is in our family has got a heavy dose of Alzheimer's in it.
Oh boy!
And my brother died from it a few years ago, and now I got two sisters going through it, and I've been tested, and I had to go through a whole year of tests.
Wow.
So I could get on the list to take this pill that they were taking, but the pill ended up doing the opposite of what it was supposed to do. And so anyway, that whole thing is all stopped now. But anyway, that's something to deal with. Like it's always on my mind, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly prevalent as the research has shown us. All right, listen, Ron, I got to take a break right now. I appreciate your time. Have a great weekend.
Okay. You too. Thank you.
All right. It is 11:16, and yes, we are going to take a quick break. Jim, we've got two Jims. Hang on the line. We'll get to you momentarily. I'm Lisa Blackburn from Forward Strategies, and you're with the Todd Veinotte Show on 95.7 News Radio. Back in a moment. Happy Friday to all who celebrate. It is 11:19, a few flurries out there, and zero. And some breaking news that has just crossed the wire. Former Canadian Olympic snowboarder Ryan Wedding has been arrested after years on the run, according to reports from NBC News. Details on the capture are expected at a press conference scheduled for 11 a.m. today. That's probably noonish our time. But the 44-year-old Wedding has been wanted for allegedly running a vast transnational drug trafficking organization that investigators say moved staggering quantities of cocaine across the U.S.-Mexico border. He's been accused of overseeing a pipeline that's capable of importing about 60 metric tons of cocaine every year. So again, that story, Canadian Olympic snowboarder Ryan Wedding has been arrested in the United States, according to NBC News. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. We are going back to the phone lines where Jim has been waiting. Thank you so much, Jim. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Lisa. How are you?
Hey, so far so good for a Friday. What's on your mind?
Well, okay, let's start with, that's a great catch, by the way, getting that drug dealer. I suppose Trump will say that he's Canadian, so what do you expect?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, anyway, having said that, I wanted to touch base with you on regards to the traffic situation in HRM.
Yeah.
First of all, in 2024, in late October, I was at a dinner and the guest speaker was the CN president, and he made it quite clear to all of us that he's not interested in any giving up any track for any type of expressway by vehicle or whatever. He's concentrating on the run between Halifax and Montreal in regards to updating the luxury cars and what have you. So he's not even thinking about giving up any track. So I can see why that would be difficult. Secondly, when it comes to the traffic, yeah, we have a lot more vehicles. But what I've noticed over many years, having grown up here and worked here in the city, there seems to be a big speeding problem here. A lot of red lights. Many times I've parked on Dunbrack and had a coffee up in Tim Hortons there, and you can just watch these big trucks and cars going through red lights like crazy. So Premier Houston was on the radio a while back, and he said that he'd be coming out with the Traffic Act, the new version, in a couple months. So we're into January now and going into February. So I'm looking forward to seeing if he's going to allow the city, the cities in Nova Scotia, to have their red light radar or videos to see that they can do better enforcement. And then I looked at each individual police department in the province, excluding the Mounties, and we just don't have a big enough traffic enforcement section. So council, I would hope, was going to, or the police commission would give more money towards that. But having said that, I think we have a big problem with the bike lanes. I never was for bike lanes the way they're being done. Matter of fact, when I ran for mayor in 24, I wished that, or I wanted to have a prohibition on bike lanes, because I do think that they've interfered with the traffic flow. Our streets in Halifax, as you well know, are very narrow. And then you have the rural occupants, and it seems to be that a lot of people are moving out to the rural areas, or the anticipation is that they will, but they're still going to be coming into Halifax for appointments, shopping, and what have you. And they're not going to be driving bicycles. They're going to be driving cars.
Well,
so
and there's, certainly there is. I was just going to say there's a wide swath of folks, too, that are driving in from other parts of the province and are parking at park and rides in HRM and taking transit from there, which is great. I mean, we're grateful that people are using the transit, but I think that's indicative that we certainly need a more concentrated or coordinated approach between the province and the municipality when it comes to dealing with traffic issues.
Yeah, for sure. And if you go around HRM and Dartmouth and Bedford and what have you, like I said before, in the shopping centers, you see cars. You don't see bicycles parked there. Common sense. And people are not, I'm not giving up my car, and I'm in my 70s. There are many people who will not give up their cars. So when they sat down and made the strategy for the bike lanes, Mayor Savage and that council, I don't know if you were part of it, Lisa, but he made the decision that he would have Halifax would be the big center for bicycles, ignoring the cars, and that they're still going to be around. So that is a big issue with cars. But the bigger issue for me is the lack of enforcement here, and the increase in speeding and jumping red lights. People know that. A lot of drivers know. I put drivers in three categories. I'll probably get some pushback and emails on this one, but I'll tell you, you have your common sense drivers, very professional people that are careful about the way they drive and respect other people. Then you have your stupid people who just are plain stupid when they drive. And then you have your idiot people who drive. And I've seen idiots. I go swimming every morning early, and they're running red lights like crazy, tailgating people like crazy, just speeding in nasty weather. I avoid the latter, the third one. So, but we do need stronger enforcement, and I hope that this council wises up in regards to the configuration of the streets, and that's what all I have to say on that.
And you know what? I think I'll add another to that category: the lazy drivers. I had no idea that there were so many. I had no idea that there were so many vehicles that did not come with blinkers as standard issue. It's incredible to me.
Very dangerous too.
Yep. All right, Jim, thanks so much.
Lisa, thanks a lot.
All right, you have a great weekend. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Barry, Robert, stay on the line. We'll get to you. We've got Jim joining us right now. Hey, Jim, thank you for holding.
Well, you're welcome, Lisa. Good morning.
Good morning. What's on your mind?
Donald Trump is on my mind. His remarks yesterday about Canada not defending themselves on the front lines. He said they come along in peacekeeping roles, and they fought with us in Afghanistan, but they weren't in the front lines. We lost 150 soldiers in that damn war, and we went to war for the United States because of what happened to them at 9/11, and we fought for them. I know we're representing NATO, but we fought for the United States.
And there are still many armed forces members that are still fighting in Afghanistan in their heads.
Yes, and they don't need me to speak for them, but I'd like to say that Donald Trump remarks yesterday, of all the stupid things he ever said in his damn life, that is the worst to diminish their role in Afghanistan. 150 families in this country lost their loved ones, their sons and daughters and nieces and nephews, and this a-hole runs us all down like that because Mark Carney said something accurate, but he didn't like it. And the other, Richard the Dick, I call him, and he's honest to God, Lisa, these two, this administration has got to go. And there's only, I heard you call him the Mango Mussolini or something. There's only one word for him: a-hole. If you're talking world politics and you mention a-hole, everybody in the world knows who he is. You don't diminish 150 people we lost in that damn war fighting for that country, and then he just smears us with his ugly face and terrible words on behalf of all veterans. And I'm not a veteran, but my brother served in Egypt as peacekeeping roles. My wife's son got blown up in an IUD in Afghanistan, and he got himself. He was a long-term member of the military, and got out of the military and just went to civilian life. But of all the time he diminished that reporter, I think she had cerebral palsy or something. I thought that was the lowest you could go, but this is the lowest. He is an a-hole. Thank you for your time, Lisa.
All right. Thank you for your time, Jim. I don't know. Just when you think you've found the bottom of the lowest of the low, he finds another low. We're going to take a quick break. It is 11:28. Blake Priddle standing by with the news. And hang on the line, Robert. We will be with you in just a few minutes. I'm Lisa Blackburn from Forward Strategies, and you're with the Todd Veinotte Show on 95.7 News Radio. Back in a moment. And welcome back to the Friday Free for All. You can get your freak on by calling us at 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Hang on the line, Barry. We'll get to you in just a moment, but Robert is up first. Thank you for waiting, Robert. Good morning and welcome.
Yeah, and how are you?
You know what? I'm doing great. It's a Friday and there are 56 days until spring.
Isn't that nice?
Yep. What's on your mind today?
Well, Alzheimer's is on my mind. My father died of Alzheimer's, and I wanted to know more about it. So I went to a seminar about Alzheimer's, and I found an alarming thing about Alzheimer's is 85% of the cases are women.
Really? I did not realize that.
Yeah, I was quite shocked when I was told that, and it's very like my mother-in-law. She died of Alzheimer's too.
My grandfather, same thing. Yep.
Yeah. So, but she told me, there was a lady there. She told me it's not hereditary.
Oh, that's news to me.
I find that kind kind of strange because is it like the gentleman you had on there? What he has two sisters that has that.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I thought that you certainly had a greater chance of developing Alzheimer's if you had a close relative that had it. Not sure if that's if that is a direct genetic link to it, but I knew that you were more susceptible for sure.
Yes, yeah, that's a terrible disease for sure.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
It certainly robs the families of their person much sooner than they would like. It's a devastating and certainly it's and for a lot of families that are trying to manage it at home, it's it's doable until the day it's not. Certainly in our family, we thought we had it all under control until the day we got the call that my grandfather was walking on Oxford Street with wearing his long underwear. So, that's when we knew, okay, this is something that we cannot manage on our own anymore. So, appreciate that, Robert. Thank you so very much for bringing that to the table.
Okay, and you have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you so much. 11:37 is the time. Back to the phone lines where Barry is. Good morning, Barry. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning, Lisa. I think you're doing a great job, by the way.
Well, thank you. Dan's going to be back on Monday, and you'll get back to some semblance of normal after Hurricane Lisa blew through.
What's the story on Todd?
Todd is on medical leave right now, and that's about all that I know. But I know that he listens regularly, and we all miss him terribly, and we hope that he can come back to his post very soon.
Yeah, right. I'd like to make a suggestion about the traffic problem in the city.
Okay.
And on the peninsula particularly, and that's working from home.
Mm.
I think that there's a lot of jobs, especially government jobs, where people are in front of the computer most of the day, and I don't see why that can't be done from home. There's an extra benefit to that, and that's the environment. And to me, it doesn't make any sense in the middle of winter for somebody to get up and clean the snow off their car and sit in traffic for a half an hour just to go up on the 10th floor of the building and be on a computer when they can do that from home.
Mm.
And I know a lot of the government, like the federal government and provincial governments, are requiring their employees to come back to the office.
Which I could never understand.
No. The only thing I can think of is it would be to justify the so-called supervisors. But
well, I mean, supervisors can still do their work when people are working remotely. I mean, there are still ways to monitor what your employees are up to.
Yes, but really, how do you supervise somebody that's on a computer? Unless they submit a report or something, which, a supervisor could monitor that from their homes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think the future with this global warming and all the rest of it is eventually going to be reducing all the traffic going to work in an office.
Yeah, agreed. I think, we certainly COVID changed the nature of how we work and reshaped how we think about work. I know that during my time on Halifax Council during COVID, not only did we discover that our employees were happier working from home, but in most cases we found they were more productive. Now, I don't know if that has maintained over the years since COVID, but that was initially what we found. And I think there is I think there is a real case to be made for moving to a hybrid work experience for everybody.
Well, they're certainly not productive when they're sitting in traffic.
No, absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
That's time lost. Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, Barry. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Lisa.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Those are the numbers to call. Phone lines are available right now. And this is a new survey that just came out that has some very interesting results. It's a new Halifax-based research company survey. Found nearly half of Nova Scotians are concerned that our country will be invaded by American forces over the next 12 months. Now, the survey was done by Narrative Research between January 13 and 15. This was before Mark Carney and Trump appeared at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And the survey showed 48% of respondents in Nova Scotia said that they were very worried that our southern neighbors could turn their military gaze north, with that level of concern based on a rating out of 10. So, interesting. Nova Scotians certainly thinking about Canada's sovereignty in a new way, as many are right across the country. National results of that survey indicate 46% of all Canadians fear an American invasion possible in the next 12 months. What about you? Do you think it's realistic? Should we be planning for some sort of American invasion into Canada? It seems almost unthinkable, but there are lots of unthinkable things that have taken place in the last year. 902-405-6000 to let us know what you think, or 1-877-801-8255. Mentioned this earlier this morning, and it is really very sad news. Vandal Donuts, both the locations, are going to be shutting its doors this weekend. They just couldn't make it work, which is very sad. Salty's restaurant as well on the waterfront was torn down this past week. A lot of restaurants from years gone by that this is making me think of, restaurants that we have had and lost here in Halifax. Are there particular ones that you still miss to this day? I mentioned Alfredo Weinstein and Ho earlier. That was the first place, I think, in HRM that had potato skins, and that was always the must order when you went. So maybe there's some other restaurants out there that you think should still be around, or that you still miss to this day. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. And we'll take your calls on the open line. It is the Friday free-for-all here. And as I said, Dan Alstrand will be back on Monday. Speaking of going back to the phone lines where Eric is. Hey, Eric, good morning and welcome to the show.
Well, good morning, Lisa. How are you doing today?
Hey, not too shabby. How about you?
Well, I'm rather disappointed in this comment you just made, that half the people in Nova Scotia believe the United States is going to invade Canada within the next 12 months.
Well, it's not me saying it. It's a survey.
Yeah, no. It was just a comment that you made.
Yeah.
Not coming from you, from what you've read. So
gotcha.
Let me clarify that, okay?
Okay.
Now, let me tell you something.
Yep.
The United States has tremendous problems right now with the mass migration problems that they're dealing with, and it's quite self-evident in the civil turmoil that's going on in the United States. They would not need to come into Canada, just in that perspective, and fight a guerrilla warfare against Canada, which will never happen.
Mm.
Secondly, if the United States were to invade Canada, it would take about 20 minutes, and our command and control would be knocked out. Just look what they did in Venezuela with Delta Force.
Yeah.
And with SEAL Team 6, right?
I think I've heard the number.
Thirdly,
I think the number I've heard is 2 days.
Well, perhaps.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna quibble with that. I've been in the military, so I understand this stuff fairly well. Now, the other thing is, when we look at it, the United States has always defended us, regardless of the cult of personality that you have with Trump in the States and Carney here and all that kind of stuff. That's not what's important. Politically, Canada is a democratic country in terms of how liberals are called in the United States. And if this were to, Canada becoming the 51st state, are you kidding me? The MAGA base in the United States, or the conservative faction in the United States, would lose so many seats.
Mm.
So politically, they're not with it. I really believe this, and I could be wrong. But I think what they want, it would be beneficial for Canada, free trade, sovereignty association, something like that. And the other thing is we should look at how we can augment where the United States wants us to help in the defense of our own country. And when you look at Greenland and all this kind of stuff, who would you rather have there, the United States, or would you rather have Russia and China or Iran?
Yeah,
right?
but there's no indication, there's no there's no data to suggest that those nations want to take over Greenland. The only indication that we have had of that is out of Trump's mouth, and we all know what that's worth.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to get into that because I look at policies. I don't look at personality. I don't look at boastful ego and all that kind of stuff. I just look at the reality of the policies that he's done. You want to get into that? Look what Carney did in Canada in the last almost 12 months, and look at what Trump has done economically for the United States, not only in this term but also in the second term. You get rid of the tariff talk and all that kind of stuff. For his own country, he's brought in $18 trillion worth of business, where the Democrats brought in $1.5 million. I don't believe in this personality stuff. If Trump has done something wrong, let's say, for example, with the Epstein files, then he deserves to go to jail. Okay? If his other policies are not good, then he deserves to be criticized. But when any politician is doing something correctly, then they should be given credit. And a lot of people hate Trump just because of his personality, because of nothing else.
Well, no,
and, sometimes
believe me, there
with,
is more to dislike about Trump than that. Let's talk about ICE detaining a 5-year-old boy in Minneapolis. I mean, that's probably as low as you can go.
Now, is illegal immigration, street gangs, MS-13? Is that Trump's fault? Right? If somebody, for example, the poor lady that got shot, if somebody points a gun at you, Lisa, you do as they ask you. It doesn't, and then if they've done something wrong, then you can be alive to grieve it. So please don't give me that. If somebody's pointing a gun at me and I'm not armed, and I can't defend myself, I'm doing exactly what they can do. That has nothing to do with Trump.
All right, we'll have to leave it there, Eric. I've got to stop down.
Yeah,
for a
I know
break.
Because you guys run away whenever you're confronted with.
Hey, listen, no. Gutless. Hey, do you want to stay on the line? I can. Oh, all right. I guess Eric didn't want to stay on the line. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255 is the number. Stuart, hang on just a bit. We'll get to you momentarily. I'm Lisa Blackburn from Forward Strategies, and you're with the Todd Veinotte Show on 95.7 News Radio. Back in a moment. Good morning, 11:51 and 0 out there. A few flurries still persisting. We're going to have Allister Aalders on after the noon hour to talk about the weekend weather, the extreme cold that's coming, and perhaps a possible storm for Monday. In the meanwhile, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255 is the number to call. And Stuart has been waiting. Thank you so much, Stuart, for joining us this morning. Hey, Stuart, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. What's on your mind?
I'd like to say first that it's good to hear your voice. I miss it on the favorite rock station. It used to be a number of years ago, but still good to hear your voice now.
Thank you. Good to be heard again.
Right on. So like your previous gentleman, I did 28 years in the military as well.
Mm-hmm.
Am I worried about the us being invaded by the United States? No.
No.
Okay. Is it a concern? It is a concern. Otherwise, that was one of the main prompts for Mr. Carney's eloquent, well-informed, well-articulated speech. And you contrast him with the other orange-haired fellow, not so much. Article 5 is quite clear, and why we might get taken over wouldn't be the end of any type of a story, that's for sure. However, like your previous gentleman, I do believe that many of the things that are facing Canada right now is what Trump called out, i.e., we have not invested in the military for close to 30, 40 years. And that is a political fault. And we understand the peace dividend. However, we're paying for it now in a big way.
Yeah, we're paying for stacking all of our chips in the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. We have relied on them. We have rode on their coattails. We have not lived up to our UN commitments for decades and decades. And despite all the politicians who have said they would, they have not.
Is it a failure of imagination? Like, did we just not take all scenarios enough into consideration?
I think it's a classic story of the peace dividend, that once the war is over, politicians then turn to other special needs that may be very well intended and very well and required. However, it still needs sovereignty comes with a price.
And what are your thoughts now on the amount of investment in the military that Mark Carney is planning, or at least he's talking about?
Long overdue.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of discussion on whether we should buy the F-35s or the Gripens and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. There's cases on both sides, but I could see the story going either way. I mean, we've purchased a not great operating aircraft in terms of the MHP, Maritime Helicopter Program.
Right.
It's one of them. Sometimes the military does not make the best decisions for purchases, and they're driven by bureaucrats. Well,
in this time, though, with the geopolitical atmosphere, what it is, does Canada need to take that into consideration when they buy these new jets? First, I think that we owe it to the people that are in uniform currently to provide them with the best equipment that we possibly can. Amen. That's what we need to do. Yep. Whether that's, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest the F-35 is that aircraft. However, we're a country of great builders, as some of the advertisement talked about. We changed a bit the face of Montreal in terms of the way that operated, 50, 70 years ago. Yeah. And even if we had the Gripen, that would be work that would be done in Canada. Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of where I think the Swedish manufacturer has the edge, in the fact that they want to establish factories here in Canada, so they'll be built here in Canada. And wouldn't that be a great shot to say that we are a little bit independent from, not as dependent on our neighbors south of the border? And that's the point exactly, the fact that decision would give us a certain level of independence that we don't have now. Listen, Stuart, thank you so very much for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Pleasure to speak to you, Lisa. All right. Take care. Have a great weekend. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. And back to the phone lines. Chris is here. Hey, Chris, welcome back.
Thank you, Lisa. I know I haven't got a lot of time, so I'll keep it very brief. But part of the reason, or the main reason, I think that our military has been depleted so much over the years is that our politicians and people in general have always had the idea, look, the United States will protect us. Well, right, and that's, and I mean, I think that's what I meant when I said, was it a failure of imagination on Canada's part, that we just accepted or went in with the assumption that the U.S. would always be our friend? Yeah, I mean, if you had a next door neighbor that gave you the keys to his car and said, anytime you want to use it, just jump in and drive, why would you buy your own? No, true enough. True enough. But anyway, this survey that was out, was it Narrative Research that did it? Yes. Yeah. I'm just looking. The story just came up like a couple of minutes ago. So Narrative Research between January 13th and 15th. Yeah. Well, that's skewed to a great degree, in my opinion, in that you've got Carney and the Liberals playing the Liberals' favorite game of fear-mongering. Mm. Carney did it prior to being elected. I'm sure you remember him saying numerous times when he was running for Prime Minister, I'm the only one that can handle Trump. Yeah. I can handle Trump. Well, he hasn't handled Trump. It's been a fiasco. Carney is a great speech maker or reader, great talker, great talker, but talk is cheap. Where's the hell's the results? You remember that commercial, the little old lady going into the restaurant back in the 80s? Mm. She got a burger and she opened it and said, where's the beef? Where's the beef? Well, as a taxpayer, that's what I want to know, Carney. Where the hell's the beef? All right. There ain't no beef to this. It's all bun. All right, Chris, thank you so much for that. We're coming up on a break at the top of the hour. Appreciate that. The last word goes to Gary. Gary, we just have 30 seconds left. What's on your mind?
Just what Eric was saying about Greenland. Trump wants Greenland for the minerals. Russia doesn't want it. China don't want it.
No, exactly. For the same reason he wanted Venezuela for the oil.
He's delusional, Eric is. Let's go back to 2018. Trump, they had a shutdown. 2020, Trump tanked the economy. 2025, Trump had a shutdown. And probably 2026, 2027, he's going to tank the economy again.
Yep.
Like, the economy is not what Eric thinks it is there. They're hurting over in the States, too. So Eric got to get his story straight.
All right, Gary, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And that's going to wrap up the Friday free-for-all. Thank you to everyone who called in. I'm going to take a quick break for the news. Blake Priddle standing by. I'm Lisa Blackburn from Forward Strategies, and you're with the Todd Veinotte Show on 95.7 News Radio. Back in a moment. Welcome back to the program. It is Friday, and there's certainly no shortage of things going on. We're looking at a trend that is transforming Canada's beverage culture and finding a home right here in Nova Scotia. Non-alcoholic drinks, everything from sophisticated mocktails to zero-proof spirits, beers, wines, no longer just for dry January. It's now become a full-fledged category in the national market as Canadians rethink how they socialize with alcohol. Now, industry data is showing that non-alcoholic beverages across Canada have seen significant growth, with entire sections of bar shelves now devoted to booze-free options. This as consumers are seeking, choice and flavor without the buzz. One local entrepreneur at the forefront of this is Jay Hiltz. Jay is owner of Soberish Mocktail Shoppe in Halifax. Jay's business specializes in alcohol-free cocktails and beverages that can appeal to everyone who wants a great drink without the booze. Good afternoon, Jay, and happy Friday. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, what were you seeing that first inspired you to open up Soberish Mocktail?
I was just noticing shifts in the marketplace, and specifically like with my businesses, I'm on social media a lot, so it feeds me all the things. And so I was seeing it happening in some larger cities across Canada, in the U.S. and parts of Europe too, and then just realized that, well, there's probably people in Nova Scotia as well. And so we tested it with our store that's outside of Halifax, just with some easy canned options. It felt like a low commitment, and the response was overwhelming. So when we got ready to open Halifax, I said, well, let's go big, because if there's people in rural areas, there's definitely got to be people in the city.
So, have you found that customer tastes have changed even since you've launched? I mean, are you seeing people who are sober curious about that lifestyle, or is this just more about moderation and balance for most people?
Honestly, it's a little bit of everything. My perspective grew drastically since we opened our doors, and I just realized through customers that were coming in, I felt like every day I was learning a different reason why people had curbed or changed their relationship with alcohol, and it's very few, because they see it as bad. And for some people, I describe it like they had the choice taken away from them, whether it's health concerns. So people with spouses with dementia or Alzheimer's or liver disease, chemo, post-chemo treatments. There's just so many reasons. But then, of course, there were some public health announcements that said alcohol was bad. And so there's people wanting to make different health choices. But the audience, even before we opened, like the audience here was way bigger than I imagined. So
really,
they were just waiting for something like this to be here.
Wow. So, who is your typical customer mix right now? I mean, certain age groups or lifestyles driving this?
We tend to see a lot, or the majority, I would say, 30s to 50s and 60s. There's definitely some on the outside of that. I know there's a lot of talk of millennials and that demographic not drinking as much, which is true, but I also don't find they make up the bulk of our clientele at this point in time.
Yeah.
And it's some people who have no interest in being alcohol-free find it silly, and they comment that we're pretending to drink fake alcohol, but it's I don't see it as that at all. Like there's people who have already, we're not trying to convince people to give up alcohol. We're here to serve the ones who had already chosen to reduce or cut it out of their lifestyle. So that's sort of the clientele that we're reaching out to.
Well, and I think the numbers are trending as well, that, you know, people are turning their backs on alcohol in favor of cannabis now that cannabis is legal in Canada.
Yes, exactly. So that you do get some of that shift. There's also a growing audience for, we call them functional beverages. So while they want to cut out alcohol, there's still this fun idea or hope that their drink is going to do something. Mm-hmm. So there are spirits that incorporate functional ingredients. Like we're seeing a big trend in mushroom extracts like lion's mane, ashwagandha, reishi, different roots like ginseng, lemon balm. All of these ingredients that have natural relaxant properties that are shown to diminish stress or social anxieties. And so for some people, alcohol is a bit of a crutch to make it easier to socialize when they go out. And so they're looking for something that sort of still takes that edge off, but it isn't alcohol. So you don't have the hangovers and you don't have the gross feelings the next day. It's just more of a natural way of sort of easing your body into moments of social connection.
And now, do you have some of those spirits available at Soberish Mocktail?
We do, absolutely. We've dedicated a whole page of our cocktail menu to cocktails that incorporate those ingredients, and it's one of the fastest growing sort of section in the store for sure. We have it in spirit form, like a full 750 ml bottle, but then we also have lots of canned options that incorporate those ingredients. Okay.
So now, you know, some data from industry is showing that non-alcoholic beverages in Canada are certainly growing rapidly. There's full categories now, non-alcoholic beer, spirits, especially strong in increases. But, you know, what trends are you seeing in Halifax that maybe match or differ from the national scene?
I think give me a second. That's
sure.
There's lots of shifts, some maybe subtle, some less subtle, but we're finding, or I'm personally seeing more restaurants adopting and non-alcoholic beverages on their bar that go beyond club soda and fruit juice. So we're seeing restaurants coming in and shopping from us. So we've developed a licensee program where restaurant owners and industry people can get discounts off of our products to help facilitate that. Yeah, absolutely. And there's a few places we've worked with to help them build out a mocktail menu for their bar. And that comes out of consumer demand. So customers come in and they still say, there's so many places that don't have anything on the menu. They're like, we would gladly pay $14, $15, $16 for a drink if it was on the menu when we go out for dinner. So there's still a lacking in that, but it is growing and changing. And so I tell them, I said, well, just keep asking, because it's the only way that restaurant is going to like physically see that their clientele want it, is if you ask. So that's my mission I'm putting out there.
Okay. So, you know, what role is the social and the well-being, the wellness side of this play into the trend? Are people, you know, when people talk to you at the bar, are they talking about health and fitness goals, better sleep, or just a different social experience? What's on their mind when they come to see you at Soberish Mocktail?
Yeah, that's definitely part of the equation as well. It ties in very well with those health and wellness and fitness industries. A lot of, if someone's training, like if they're a weightlifting bodybuilder, when they go in training for competitions, they don't drink alcohol. So they're looking for other options. And we're doing part of Dry January, but we're going to continue it into the year. We've teamed up with a local yoga instructor, so we're doing sessions on Friday nights called Mocktails on the Mat. So she facilitates a yoga session, and then one of our bartenders is there creating mocktails with these adaptogen products that sort of complement the style of yoga we were doing that night. And then she facilitates this social time afterwards where we just hang out on the mats and chat, and she guides the conversation in a really lovely way. So we're creating spaces that also bring these worlds together. That's one thing. I get a lot of messages in our DMs and our emails asking for us to create more sober events. So I hear you, and we're doing it. And the other thing that customers frequently voice when they come in is if they've cut out alcohol, they miss the socialization that comes through sharing a beverage or a meal across the table. And sure, you could do that at home, but it's not the same. People still enjoy going out for something and to do something. And so they're like, yes, we've had all the canned things, but we really miss the craft cocktail experience. So we're trying to bring that cocktail culture back and keep it inclusive for anyone, regardless of their relationship with alcohol.
That's awesome. So, looking ahead, what are you thinking the future holds for the non-alcoholic beverage culture here in Nova Scotia?
I think we've only just begun to scratch the surface. I think it's going to continue to expand, and I'm kind of excited because, like any new industry, technology is going to continue to improve. Discoveries are going to continue to happen, and so while in some areas where people are like, it's close, but it's not quite there yet, like we'll continue to find new practices and new ingredients that complete the process to where it's like, oh my gosh, this tastes exactly like the real thing. So I'm curious to see where that goes.
All right. Jay Hiltz, owner of Soberish Mocktail Shoppe. Whereabouts are you in Halifax?
We are at 2443 Agricola Street.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much for your time today and have a great weekend.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
All right, take care. It is 12:15. We're going to take a quick break. And on the other side, we're going to talk about how you can save money on your power and water bills as those continue to rise. I'm Lisa Blackburn from Forward Strategies. You're with the Todd Veinotte Show on 95.7 News Radio. Back in a moment. And good afternoon. It is 12:19 and is partly cloudy. The odd flurry out there. We're at 0 degrees. Next up, we're talking about something that is pretty much affecting every household and business in Nova Scotia. That's the cost of energy and water bills. With utilities across the province seeking higher rates, many residents are feeling the pinch. And in Halifax alone, wastewater rates are going to be rising this year. At the same time, energy costs have been climbing as well, with Nova Scotia Power proposing higher power rates in 26 and 2027. Many customers experiencing noticeable bill increases, and they're really looking for ways to manage those costs. And that's where energy efficiency comes in. EfficiencyOne can help people and businesses cut their energy use, lower bills, and reduce environmental impact. Joining us right now is Janet Tobin, who is the Communications Manager at EfficiencyOne. And Janet is here to explain the big picture and share some practical advice on how Nova Scotians can save energy, save money, and still keep the heat and the water on. Good morning and welcome to the show, Janet.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
So listen, let's start with the big picture. How are overall energy and water costs trending in Nova Scotia right now, and what is driving those increases?
Look, we're seeing costs rise on things all around us. And power rates and water rates are no exception. We're hearing from customers, they're feeling that. It's impacting decisions they have to make in their homes. We know, a pretty significant chunk of Nova Scotians are living in what we refer to as energy poverty, which means they're making difficult decisions on, do I buy groceries today or am I, paying down on that bill? So our work is really looking for ways to help them reduce their overall bills and ease the pressure any way that they can. The really good news is there really are practical things that people can do to lower their energy bills.
Okay. So, many people have seen their power bills jump even when the usage hasn't changed all that much. Why could that be happening, and what should folks be checking on first if they're confused by a higher bill?
So I think if someone is seeing a higher bill than what they were anticipating, the first course of action would be to look at, are there appliances in their home that maybe are drawing power in a different way, maybe older appliances that aren't working as efficiently? Are there things that are happening in the home? You think of water, sometimes, a toilet or a tap that is running kind of in the background with a little drip actually can have a pretty significant impact. So taking a look in your home and figuring out if there are things that you can see that might be having that impact. There are a lot of good tools, online through your power bill where you can see kind of what the higher usage pieces are. But if you're really concerned, you can give the utility a call. You can take a look at your bill, take a look at your meter. Not everyone, of course, knows how to just naturally read those, but those are conversations you could be having directly with the utility. And definitely, if you feel that there's cause for concern or something needs to be reassessed or readjusted, my understanding is they're open to having those conversations and looking into that.
Excellent. So EfficiencyOne, certainly, you guys help Nova Scotians reduce energy use, saving on bills. What are some of the most effective programs or tips that you have seen that actually make a difference on household energy costs?
Yeah, so I like to kind of break things into smaller things that people can do, and then larger upgrades, recognizing that not everyone does have, upfront money or the desire right now to take on some larger upgrades. So in the smaller piece, these small changes really can add up. And we often say, the cheapest energy is energy that you don't use. And energy efficiency is a tool to help you do that. It isn't about being uncomfortable in your home or being cold. It's about reducing your energy use and using your energy more wisely. So lots of simple upgrades could be things like, making sure your light bulbs have been changed out to LED light bulbs. Looking at tools like smart power bars that help, keep devices on that need to be on all the time, and others that don't. The power cycles off to those. In terms of water use, things like low-flow shower heads or faucet aerators. These are all really inexpensive and easy to install measures, and they, over time add up. There's also tools like smart thermostats. Smart thermostats are programmable, but they also learn your habits and can help heat your home more efficiently. And then we also, if you think of, you've probably seen these at home hardware stores, waterproofing or weatherproofing or draft sealing kits. Those can be really impactful and things you can do yourself. They're kind of all set it and forget it measures. Once that light bulb's been changed, it's been changed. And those savings just kind of keep coming. And on your own, they may seem individual and small, but together they really do add up. And the best part is they're immediate. So you'll kind of see that on your next power bill. You'll see those changes kind of right away. And most of those measures are also really renter friendly since they don't really require any permanent changes.
Yeah, I was just about to ask because, a lot of these sound like they are accessible to...
These ones are, This is kind of our go-to list of things that, whether you own or rent or whatever, that are easy to do and it can have an immediate impact. People are often surprised at how much those little changes can actually shave off their bills. And then as we move into larger upgrades, thinking, heat pumps and insulation are probably kind of the heavy hitters when it comes to longer term savings for homeowners. We offer a number of programs that can help customers who are looking at these measures, and they are kind of income-dependent programs. So, we always want to make sure that we're supporting Nova Scotians where they're at. So, if you're lower income, moderate income, or above, we do kind of have a program that can support you. Just to put that in perspective, one mini split heat pump in an oil heated home can actually help cut your energy costs by 15 to 25%. So these aren't insignificant savings. This can have a big impact.
It's real money.
It's real money, and you're going to see that back in your wallet. Every season, especially. We're in the middle of the winter. It's cold out there today. So, these are really important things. And I always do like to note, we know that people love to get heat pumps. Heat pumps are very popular tools, and they're very effective tools. But part and parcel with that is looking at insulation.
Yeah.
If your home doesn't have great insulation in it, the heat pump's going to work harder. And it's, it could actually have the opposite effect and impact your bills in another way. So making sure that you're looking at both of those pieces in tandem is really important.
Good. All right. Good advice. What about specific measures to help with water use and water bills? Or is EfficiencyOne just focus on electricity?
So, on its face, we focus on electricity. But what's really interesting is, most water used in the home is to heat the water. So it's hot water. So when you're saving on your water, you're actually also saving on your energy bills too. So it really kind of shows up twice in terms of savings for you. Some easy things that we hear people talk about a lot are, being careful of, taking shorter showers, making sure the faucet's off when you're brushing your teeth. Those are really quick and easy things someone can do that can have a small impact. But there are tools like low-flow fixtures, so low-flow shower heads, faucet aerators, devices that go in the back of the toilet tank. They just naturally reduce the amount of water you're using. So those can be really effective ways. And also, if we're looking at larger upgrades, if you're take a look at your water heater. If it's nearing end of life and you need to replace that, or you're just looking for more efficient options, there's tons of energy efficient options out there. Whether it's like an efficient tank, tankless systems or heat pump hot water tanks, which we're really seeing a huge rise of here in Nova Scotia now. And they all have a pretty significant impact both on water use and on your electricity overall.
All right, some great advice there. Thank you so very much. Janet Tobin, Communications Manager at EfficiencyOne. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. Have a great weekend.
You as well.
All right, it is 12:27, and we're going to take a quick break for the news with Blake Priddle. I'll be back in just a few moments. I'm Lisa Blackburn from Forward Strategies, and you're with the Todd Veinotte Show on 95.7 News Radio. Back in a moment. And welcome back to the show for a Friday. And as was just mentioned, it is time for our weekly weather roundup with meteorologist Allister Aalders. Welcome back.
Hello. Good afternoon.
All right. You're here to unpack the latest patterns and forecasts that matter to all of us. And certainly there's a lot coming at us this weekend.
Yes, there is.
But we've got to get some cold first. We've got a major winter storm that's sort of brewing in the U.S. that could be sweeping into Atlantic Canada early next week. What gives?
Yeah, so I mean, if you follow, I guess, news at all outside of Canada, but it's even making Canadian headlines now. Millions of Americans gearing up for potentially, they're calling it generational winter storm in the southern and eastern U.S. this weekend. I mean, significant. I mean, it really depends on where you are, but some of these, southern states gearing up for an extended freezing rain event, which is obviously very concerning. We all know the impacts that freezing rain can have in these areas that are really not used to it or prone to these long duration freezing rain events. And the problem in parts of the states is that it's going to be cold afterwards. So you get the freezing rain and then it's not going to melt off. Yeah. So there's a lot of concern for those southern and eastern states getting the freezing rain. Of course,
I just saw that Washington, D.C. has just declared a state of emergency before the storm is even hit.
Yeah. So that's a sign of how forecasters there and emergency officials are expecting it to be so severe. I mean, like I said, impacting millions from, Texas and Alabama right through to, the Midwest and New England. Precipitation varying, obviously, depending on where you are. But for us, I mean, it does look likely that it's going to impact us. Earlier in the week, almost all the models were saying it's going to sail to our south, but the models have been trending farther north throughout the week. What I will say is it doesn't look like we're in for a significant, say, freezing rain or ice pellet event, which is good.
Okay.
Can't rule out, depending on the track, maybe a bit of mixing, especially along the coast of the South Shore, maybe into Halifax on Monday. But this should largely be a snow event, which obviously we can handle. It will be a bit of a longer duration event compared to, say, what we had this past Monday, where the snow moves in Sunday night into Monday morning, but likely continues for much of Monday, possibly even Monday night, and then finally tapers off to flurries into Tuesday morning. So a bit of a longer duration event, and where temperatures are going to be colder. I mean, good that it will be fluffy, easy to shovel away compared to what we had on Monday that was so heavy. But when we have the colder temperatures, if there's ample moisture available, it's very easy to collect, and we see a greater accumulation. So amounts will really be nailed down as we go through the upcoming weekend. But looking at the guidance now, it looks like certainly the possibility of 20 to maybe upwards of 30 centimeters here in Halifax area when you total everything from Sunday night through to early Tuesday. And even the potential, now this is, I'm just throwing it out there right now, that perhaps we see upwards of 40, depending on how the system tracks, how close it is if we're into the heavier snow for a longer period of time.
Okay. Is there going to be wind associated with this?
There will be some wind. It doesn't look like, say, a severe wind event, but obviously with, gusty winds and the snow being on the fluffier variety, that's when we see more concerns when it comes to blowing and drifting snow and reduced visibility. Because obviously, the snow that we had on Monday, there was hardly any wind, which was part of the problem why it accumulated on everything. But even if we had the wind, I think it would have been in some ways more beneficial because it would have knocked some of that snow off or not allowed it to collect as much as it did on the infrastructure. But a heavier snow with wind, the visibility, while reduced, is usually better than when we have the fluffier snow and the wind. It's that's when we get into the whiteout, and I'm not saying it would be a blizzard conditions, but that's when we start to see the reduced visibilities, especially in those areas that are more exposed or prone to the higher winds.
And what the timing of this? When do you see the snow beginning?
So obviously, at this point, it's the lead time is still a bit unclear, but it looks like either late Sunday evening or during the overnight into Monday. So generally target Sunday night as when it moves in, and then ramping up into and on Monday morning, and likely continuing throughout the day on Monday. There could be some breaks depending on the track because it will be cold. We could see some drier air move in from the system, which obviously that is something we need to watch in terms of if that limits amounts, if we see some breaks in the snow. But generally target it starting Sunday night, continuing certainly Monday morning, likely the afternoon and evening, and then finally clearing out Monday night into Tuesday morning with some lingering flurries.
And I predict that there will be a whole city of school kids going to bed Sunday night with their pajamas inside out and spoons under their pillow in anticipation of a storm day.
Exactly.
Before all of that hits us, though, we've got some extreme cold heading our way for the weekend.
Yes, I mean, cold warnings are in effect now for Cumberland and northern Colchester counties, where the wind chill values could dip as cold as minus 30 beginning tomorrow morning, and as well certainly Sunday morning. What I'll say about the cold is that, it is winter here in Canada. We are used to cold. We're no strangers to cold. But obviously when the wind chill value starts to get into that level, anything that reaches or exceeds minus 28, that's when you have the risk of frostbite on exposed skin in as little as 10 minutes.
Wow.
And obviously the risk of hypothermia increasing. And we need to think obviously about, our more vulnerable populations, especially
people who work outside, people experiencing homelessness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why these warnings are issued, because we need to bring attention to it and make sure that those who, like you said, work outside or are unfortunately homeless, that we're looking after those populations and hopefully providing shelter for them during this cold weather. But here in Halifax, we have a cold front coming in tonight, so the temperature starts to really start to tumble overnight. We fall down to about minus 14. So, I mean, that's not too bad, but the wind gusting upwards of 40, it will feel closer to minus 23. And then Saturday, minus 13 is the daytime high. So, I mean, that's a pretty cold day. The wind chill in the mid minus 20s throughout the day. We're down to minus 18 Saturday night into Sunday.
Bring the cat in.
Exactly. Wind chill values into the mid minus 20s again on Sunday here in Halifax, Sunday morning. And then Sunday's only minus 12. So, I mean, it's not record-breaking cold. It's,
but brisk.
It's nothing that we haven't experienced before, but especially where much of this month has been quite mild. It might be a little bit of a shock to the system for us. So just plan for a cold weekend, and overall, a colder pattern for the rest of the month looks very likely, with temperatures, cooler than what we would consider normal. The normal high this time of year is minus 1. The normal overnight low is minus 10.
Oh, wow. Okay. So definitely below the trend there. You're talking about the snow earlier. You said that what's coming at us this week is going to be a lot different than the snow that we had the first of the week. And that sort of, made me think about not all snow is the same, right?
Exactly.
And a term that I heard earlier this week was snow ratio. Can you explain why some snowfalls are sort of light and fluffy, others are wet and heavy?
So when we're forecasting snow, you look at, as you mentioned, snow ratio. Some call it the fluff factor, if it's a fluffier snow, or
the
more
fluff
like
factor.
I know,
love
right?
That.
Or more like cement. So temperature is obviously the big factor in how wet or dry the snow is. The average snow ratio is 10-1, so that means you melt 10 centimeters of snow and you get 1 centimeter of water or 10 millimeters of liquid.
Okay.
When you have, and that's around, a temperature of about, minus 2, minus 1, you can get that ratio at the freezing mark, but it's more so, kind of that minus 3 to minus 1 range. If you see the temperature at 0 or warmer, that's when the ratio starts to lower. So there's more liquid in that snow. So it's perhaps a 5-to-1 ratio where you only have to melt 5 centimeters of snow to get that 1 centimeter or 10 millimeters of liquid. Then on the other hand, if it's colder, down to say -5, -6, you can get a 15 or 20-to-1 ratio where you need to melt 20 centimeters of snow to get that 1 centimeter or 10 millimeters of liquid equivalent. And in some cases, from time to time, we do see snow ratios of 15 or 20-to-1, but in some cases they can go, 25-to-1, even 30-to-1 in some of the coldest areas, or even a bit lower. But the average, what is considered the average snow ratio, is about 10-to-1, which we often do see, but obviously temperature is so key. So when it's warmer, we get those lower ratios. There's more liquid in that snow when you melt it. It's very dense. And then the higher ratios, the 15, 20-to-1, it's the fluffy snow that it's blowing around, but when you're shoveling it, it's just easy to you shovel it and it flies away basically if it's windy, right?
And that's what we're going to look at for Monday then.
Yeah, it looks like generally, yeah.
Perfect. Listen, before we take off, just want to mention the reports of northern lights that were lighting up the sky across the Maritimes this week. What led to the conditions to, what lined up to make the conditions such that we could see them here?
So we are in a period of, the sun cycle follows periods of solar maximum and solar minimum, and we're in a period of solar maximum, which means there's more activity happening on the sun, more coronal mass ejections, they're called, that, can be sometimes targeted towards the Earth. You have these solar flares happening on the sun, and when they are directed towards the Earth, that is when we see obviously elevated chances for the northern lights, and we've been seeing more activity with stronger flares that have been directed towards Earth in really the last couple of years because we're in this period of maximum. So that's essentially what happened earlier in the week. We had a solar flare, a coronal mass ejection that brought visibility of the northern lights to much of Canada and even much of the States. We are trending towards a solar minimum. We're kind of passing the peak now. So opportunities will become fewer and far between for them to be visible farther south during, as we trend towards that. So enjoy it while you can. Obviously, social media is now a big factor, and technology. I mean, our cameras can take in more light. Our DSLR cameras can really see them because they're not always visible to the naked eye, even if they are potentially able to be seen. And then social media, everyone, you can say, oh, I'm seeing them in Ingonish, Cape Breton, or I'm seeing them in Truro, Nova Scotia, and everyone's communicating about, what they're able to see, and the technology has just improved. So
if I understand correctly with the technology piece, if you go outside and you just see just the faintest shade of light, and it doesn't look like much, take a picture anyway, because the picture might give you a greater sense of what's out there.
You might see very little color, or it might even just appear a bit white.
Yeah.
Take a picture with, if you can, a long exposure on your cell phone. Most phones can do that, or your DSLR. And more than likely, you will get a vivid aurora borealis photo with nice green and purple, sometimes even red hues. Now, there have been a couple of events where you could see them with the naked eye. There was the May event, I think it was 2024, and then last October, I was fortunate to actually see it with my naked eye out in East Hants. It was really cool. But those are more rare opportunities. The chances to see them, it's always, go into it with have high hopes but low expectations. But have that camera ready, and, there's a chance you might just be able to at least capture them to, kind of see it that way.
All right. Allister Aalders, 95.7 News Radio meteorologist. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right. It is 12:47. Time for a quick break. I'm Lisa Blackburn from Forward Strategies, and you're with the Todd Veinotte Show on 95.7 News Radio. Back in a moment. And 12:50 is the time. We are wrapping up the week with our sports chat with Cecil Wright in just a moment. But first up, we've got some tickets to give away to the Mooseheads game. Mooseheads versus Sherbrooke tonight at 6:30. If you would like those tickets, if you can get down here to the radio station before the office closes at 5, give us a call right now, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255 if you want those tickets to see the Mooseheads versus Sherbrooke tonight at 6:30 at Scotiabank Centre. All right, joining us now with a look at sports from the week, we have Cecil Wright. Hey, Cecil, welcome back.
What's up, Lisa? How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Well, I'm having some withdrawals because I thought that the Red Sox were going to get Alex Bregman, and he signed with Chicago, and I get all kinds of calls and messages from Blue Jay fans who were not very kind, I got to tell you.
Not very kind?
They were not very kind to me. No, they were bragging about how Boston was going to do terrible now that Bregman was gone. But then Toronto lost Bo Bichette, and now I'm trying to contact those guys, and they won't even take my call.
I was just about to say, how are they faring with the news that Bo Bichette has agreed to a 3-year, $126 million contract with the New York Mets?
Yeah, they're a little upset. I think they're more upset that he left the team than the dollar figure.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Blue Jays offered him, and I know it was substantial, but obviously he wanted out. And I was telling Dan this before, that I thought there was something that was amiss in that Blue Jay clubhouse, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And I'm thinking that Bo Bichette is the answer.
Wow. So you think he was thinking about jumping long before this news broke?
I think he was thinking that he was never going to be the man on the Blue Jays team, and I think that that's his desire. Now, having said that, he signs with New York, who has Juan Soto, so he's not going to be the man in New York either.
No.
But I will say I believe he's really smart to only sign for 3 years, because he'll be 30 at the end of this contract and have a chance to make some more money.
Yeah, so the deal reportedly includes opt-outs after the first 2 seasons. So what does that mean? I mean, what does that give him?
That means that he can do exactly what Bregman did to the Red Sox. Bregman signed a multi-year contract with Boston, but it had opt-outs after year 1. So he just exercised his ability to opt out, and now he got a bigger multi-year contract with the Cubs.
Okay, so this means that Bichette can take the Mets for a test drive. If he doesn't like it, he can take it back and move on.
Exactly. Precisely.
Yeah. So he's likely to play third base for the Mets?
Yes, that's the plan from what I'm told.
All right. Did you catch his social media post after the announcement?
No, what did he say?
Well, it was pretty classy. It was obvious that Toronto touched his heart, and he made it clear that he wasn't going to forget the fans or the incredible run that they had this year.
Yeah, he left out that incredible run that they had while he was injured and couldn't play.
Yeah, true enough. True enough. I wonder how much did that factor into the deal? Do you think his injury?
I don't think that had much to do with it.
No.
I mean, nobody can prevent these injuries from occurring when they do. But like I said, man, I was always saying that there was a problem in the clubhouse, but didn't know who or what. And I think that even besides the fact that he's saying all these great things about Toronto and he was there and they were the team that gave him a chance and blah, blah, blah. Well, if you liked it so much, why didn't you stay?
Yeah. Moving to football, the Buffalo Bills have fired their head coach, Sean McDermott. This happening just days after that heartbreaking 33-30 overtime playoff loss to the Broncos. I mean, the owner of the team says that they hit the proverbial playoff wall and needed new leadership to get past this. What do you think?
I think he's a nut. And I think that Sean McDermott is a very, very good coach. Every time the Patriots went up against the Bills, whether it's win or lose, you always knew that the Bills would be prepared, and especially, with Josh Allen at the helm. I don't know who they think they're going to get who's going to be better than Sean McDermott, although I'm hearing a rumor that they are interviewing Phillip Rivers, the former quarterback, who his only experience as a coach is coaching high school. Now, if you're talking about getting rid of Sean McDermott for somebody who has no professional experience, you're crazy.
Yeah. Well, and the story that I heard is that the decision to fire McDermott came after he was in the locker room and he saw the owner was in the locker room and saw how emotional it was. And just made the decision right there. I mean, is firing a coach based on that immediate reaction really fair to McDermott and the broader track record for the team?
No, not at all. Like I said, I think he's nuts to do that, and the team is going to be pissed off. I don't know who you think you're going to hire as a head coach who's going to be better or more qualified than Sean McDermott. He's got like a 75% winning percentage in his years as a head coach in Buffalo. You're not going to get anybody who's going to do any better than that.
All right. And closing out here, things for the week, we've got the NFL Conference Championships coming up this weekend. Who do you like and why?
Well, I'm taking New England. They're my boys.
Yes. And I'm taking Seattle. They're mine.
Well, I'm going to get to Seattle. I'm taking New England because I think New England's got a better defense than anybody's given them any credit for. And all they've heard about over the past week or so is how great the Denver defense is, and they're not going to be able to score on them. And I think they're going to take that and put it up on the bulletin board. Also, Denver's starting quarterback is out, so they're going to be playing a guy who hasn't thrown a pass all year. So I like my Patriots' chances in that situation.
All right.
Seattle, as far as I'm concerned, best overall defense in all of football.
Wow.
And the fact that they're playing in Seattle with that 12th man advantage that they call.
Yep.
I like the Rams, but not in this game. I'm going with Seattle versus New England in the Super Bowl.
Outstanding. All right. Thank you so much, Cecil Wright. Appreciate that. You have a great weekend.
You too. Stay warm.
All right. Thanks. It is 12:58. Before we wrap up for the week, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who made the past 2 weeks happen, to all of our guests who shared their time and insight, the callers who brought the energy and perspective to the program, and especially to producer Vanessa Vandeness, who kept me on the air and moving forward. So really appreciate you choosing to spend some time with us. I've had a great time. I hope that you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Take care of yourselves this weekend. Dan, we'll see you back here on Monday. I'm Lisa Blackburn from Forward Strategies, and you're with the Todd Veinotte Show on 95.7 News Radio. News update coming up in just a moment. Have a great weekend.